Today I'm going to talk about rural healthcare and how the changes coming in government are going to negatively impact all of us that live in rural America. But if you bear with me, I'd like to do that by telling you an Easter story. Hi everybody, welcome to the Back 40. My name's Will, and let's talk about it. On Good Friday in 1980, my grandfather and I started the day like we started every other day. We got up, we ate 2 fried eggs with salt-cured ham and homemade biscuits and red-eye gravy that my grandmother made. And then we went outside, hooked the post hole digger up to the old International tractor, and headed down to the barn to dig post holes for a riding arena and working pen we were making for the horses on our farm. Now, any farm or ranch kid will tell you that you learn to count at an early age. And I knew that on that day in 1980, we had 40 post holes that we needed to dig. And I knew that when we finished that last one, it would then become Will time. I could grab my BB gun and my old dog Cowboy and head out and spend the rest of the day doing what I wanted to do. But, as is the case quite often, the good Lord had other plans. As we were digging the 40th hole, the very last one, the auger hit a limestone shelf underground and the entire tractor jumped sideways. And when it did, a bolt in the power takeoff caught my glove and wrapped my arm in the farm machinery, almost severing it from my body. Now there's a reason why my grandfather hangs above me here over my shoulder in my office when I work every day, because he reacted exactly the way you would expect a man who had lived through the Great Depression and World War II to react. He immediately went into hero mode. He jumped down off the tractor and he very gently removed me from the farm machinery that I was tangled in. He took out his old trusty penknife and he cut away the letter jacket that was suffocating me at the time. He gently laid me on the ground and on foot he ran to the farmhouse to call an ambulance. Now let me tell you a little bit about healthcare in 1980. I laid on the ground for an hour and 40 minutes with my grandmother and grandfather beside me before an ambulance arrived to begin treating me. It took them 40 minutes to stabilize me on the scene, and then there was another 40-minute to 1-hour ambulance ride to the hospital. Now, all of you out there that do the Lord's work in medical care know that there's something called the golden hour. The golden hour is that first hour after a critical accident or emergency situation where you're most likely to be saved. I surpassed that by quite a lot because there was no adequate health care in the area where I lived. After being treated in the hospital for 2 months, I then entered a rehabilitation program where I began to learn how to reuse my left arm once more. And that meant a 1-hour car drive every day, where my grandfather and I would climb into the truck and drive for an hour to rehabilitation and then an hour back again. Why? Because the healthcare programs in 1980 did not include rural rehabilitation programs. Fortunately, rural healthcare has changed a lot since those days. If that same accident occurred today in the same place, an ambulance would arrive in 5 minutes, I'd be treated, and I could be to a local regional healthcare facility where they could have stabilized me within 15 minutes. And that change, that additional rural healthcare that's come about since the time I had my accident, could be the difference between life and death for many people that either get injured or have serious medical emergencies on the farm. But unfortunately, rural healthcare in America is under attack. And it's under attack by the very Republicans that we elect to represent us in Congress and in the Senate. By failing to expand Medicare funds across the country and by cutting the funding programs that exist for rural healthcare programs, they've really placed rural healthcare in great danger. Right now, 53% of rural hospitals operate in the red, and 700 healthcare facilities, including hospitals across this country, are in danger of closing just in the next year. And that's before the fund freeze that the Trump administration just put on grants and loans going to rural healthcare facilities. And even though Congress passed the ACA program 12 years ago, there are 10 states that have not adequately accepted and expanded Medicare funds in order to fully fund the program in their state. And in addition to losing rural hospitals and healthcare facilities, many have also had to cut back on the critical programs that they offer. 293 rural hospitals across the country have stopped offering OB services, and over 400 have stopped offering critical cancer care like chemotherapy. Now, all of this is happening in an environment where rural healthcare faces its own challenge. First of all, distance and transportation. Even though things are a lot better than they were in 1980 when my accident occurred, we still have healthcare deserts in this country where facilities are so far away and so hard to get to that it eliminates the opportunity for healthcare emergency officials to react within the golden hour. There are also critical workforce shortages because rural healthcare pays much less than urban healthcare does. There are a lot of reasons for this, but the primary reason is that rural healthcare is not adequately funded. And because it's not adequately funded, it can't pay the employees and healthcare providers that provide rural healthcare services the same amount as their counterparts in cities make. And don't get me started on health insurance. Do you know there are some places in rural America where the medical professionals that respond to an emergency determine that an injured person needs a helicopter to get to the hospital instead of an ambulance? And that many times after the fact, health insurance companies rule that the better decision would have been to send them on an ambulance rather than a helicopter. And they refuse to pay those bills, and they destroy the credit of people who only made the mistake of getting injured or hurt in the first place. Added to that is the fact that many hospitals don't have good broadband. If you're hurt in an urban area, chances are, if your medical professional doesn't understand the injury or the disease you're suffering from, they can use world-class broadband to contact medical professionals all around the world to learn more about your case and how they can better treat you. That's not the case in most of rural America. They're also cutting back on medical literacy. What do I mean by that? It means that we're not spending the same amount of money that we used to offer up programs to rural America to teach them how to prevent things like diabetes, etc. These are critical programs that save money overall in the long run and improve the lifespans and health of rural people. Now, this is one of those times when I'm going to remind rural America that I'm not asking you to admit you were wrong, just to admit that you were lied to, because there's only one party that's trying to damage rural healthcare in this country, and it's the Republican Party. And there's only one president standing strongly behind that, and that's President Donald J. Trump. What can we do right now? We need to pressure our Republican officials in red states to expand Medicaid funds to fully fund rural healthcare programs. And we need to do it now, before they're gone. We also have to put critical pressure on Republican elected officials in red states to overrule the president on his desire to freeze funds across the United States, because they not only impact agricultural programs, they impact the hospitals and schools that provide education and critical medical attention for the people that live there. Now, I'd like to end by saying if you want to be a part of this, we'd love to have you here on the Back 40. How can you be a part of it? Just follow me and join our lives that we do on Tuesday and Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and on Saturday from 2 to 4 Central Standard Time. You can also join our Discord. You can do that by sending an email to the Back 40 family, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Just letting us know you want to be a part of the Back 40, talking to us about what skill sets you bring to the table that we might utilize, and letting us know if you want to be a part of our Discord. We'd love to have you. In rural America, I want to make one final point. There are a lot of people across this country that have stood up for us in the past to get the services that we need here where we live. But it's time for us to become the leaders in fighting for these programs and not relying on other people to do it for us. So pick up the phone, get in front of the computer, and reach out to those Republican elected officials who are solely responsible for eliminating these programs that we need. Thanks, guys. That's the news from the Back 40, and I hope you have a great day. Oh, and one last thing. That was me in 1980. And this is me now. I'm doing just fine.